everybody. Welcome to the Scottish Fiddle channel with David Gardner. I'm David Gardner, and I'm here to share my love of Scottish music with you. Before we go any further, though, please click on the like and subscribe buttons to support my channel. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the first fiddle book that I ever bought. I didn't actually buy it. My mom bought it for me. And it was on a trip to Switzerland to visit my relatives, my uncle and my aunt, and my two cousins, Eberhard, Elfie, and Philip and Janet. And they live at least they lived in a small town in Switzerland called Rapperswil. And I had just learned how to start playing the violin, and I was doing okay. I was actually progressing fairly well, and so I had brought my violin with me. This was back, I think, in 1979. I think it was over. I think it was over the Christmas holiday. I think it was over the Christmas holiday, and my mom went down to the local music store down the hill from where my cousins lived, and she picked up this book, and it's a book called "The English, Welsh, Scottish, and Irish Fiddle Tunes" by a guy named Williamson, and it was this brown covered book, and I'll show it to you here in a second. Brown covered book with about 100 tunes in it, of all sorts of British tunes. And let me cut over to show you that. So here's that book that I was talking to you about. This is the front cover. I have it on PDF now. I've got an electronic copy of it. I loaned it to somebody about 25 years ago, and I never got it back. I was kind of heartbroken, and I never bought a new copy of it. But by that point, I already had a whole bunch of other fiddle books. But this was my first fiddle book, and I just wanted to share it with you a bit. And you can kind of look at this book and see what it kind of looks like. And one of the neat things about this book, and unfortunately, when I bought it on Google Books, you can't get the recording that went with it, and it came with this little floppy plastic record that you could put on your record player, and you could spin it, and you could listen to Robin play some of these tunes. And now that I think back about it, he was just an awful fiddle player. He was just so bad. Robin Williamson was actually more of a harpist. You can go onto YouTube and find some of his music, and he's actually quite a fine harpist. He's not a good violin player. He's just not a very good fiddle player, but he is a really great collector of tunes. And so I wanted to share some of those with you. And so this is a tune book, and it's kind of neat because if you go through the book, um, he actually organizes it really nicely. He talks about why he put the book together, talks about the history of the fiddle, which is really interesting to me as a young fiddle player. I wanted to learn about the history. And he talks about the roots of the music in Ireland and Scotland, Wales and England. There's even some Welsh tunes in here, which is kind of fun. And then he talks about the various forms of these tunes, which is really great. So I kind of got into reading the different types of tunes. It talks about jigs, reels, the mysterious strathspey, the hornpipe, and other forms. And then here's the index of the different tunes. But I wanted to bring you to the first tune that I actually learned, and it's over here on page 32. It was the very first tune that I learned as a fiddle tune. So this is my first fiddle tune. It's the Turpin Hero, and I'll play it for you here. So I'm going to play the Turpin Hero now. Wasn't that a fun tune? I really, really enjoy that tune. I still love it today. It's an English tune. Um, if you look at these tunes, though, what I really loved, and I think this is probably what got me started on these types of tunes and the way to present music in general, is there's a story that goes along with each one of this, and it talks about the Turpin Hero and the history of it, and how he was a sort of a an outlaw, but sort of a Robin Hood character in that respect as well. So the next tune that I learned, um, and this one was actually on the recording, so I got to kind of hear Robin playing it, and so I kind of emulated the way that he was playing. It's called Virgin Pullets. Um, this tune right here. I'll play that for you. On the next page, and down a bit, green sleeves. I didn't actually look at green sleeves. It was actually, it's this tune right here, The Rover Reformed. Such a great tune. I learned a lot from playing this. It's a slower tune, so I'll let you hear this. The Rover Reformed. So up until now, we've basically been talking about English music. So, and I thought to myself, I like this English stuff. It's fun to play, but my grandfather was from Scotland, so really maybe I should start playing some Scottish music. And there was a whole section of Scottish music in here. So the very first Scottish tune that I ever learned, and this is the very first Scottish tune I ever learned. And it's interesting that I chose this. The reason I chose it is it was on here's the first tune in the Scottish section. Okay, so here's the Scottish section, talks about Scotland, and it's this tune right here, which is actually a Shetland tune, and I know that now, and it's actually in the Hand Me Doing the Fiddle collection, which I'm very fond of. It's a great Shetland tune. But so this was the first the first Scottish tune I ever learned, the Peerie Hoose a Hint the Burn, and it talks, and I thought that was such a neat title. And the Peerie Hoose is a tune popular in the Shetlands, and it means the little house behind the stream. And so this was my first Scottish tune ever, and it's a cute little fun little Shetland reel. So take a listen. A Peerie Hoose a Hint the Burn. What a great tune. So the next tune that I learned was and I didn't know this at the time, is a song, Corn Rigs Are Bonny, and Robert Burns actually wrote some words to this tune, the Corn Rigs Are Bonny. And this was the next tune because it was the next tune in the list, and that's the one that I learned, and I started playing this around the house, around the house. Well, that brings us to probably one of my favorite tunes of all time. And I learned it out of this book. And I just, I loved this tune so much. I just played it and played it and played it. And interestingly enough, there are strathspeys in this book, but I never really got into the strathspeys. I didn't quite understand them because I didn't really have anybody to teach me how to play them. And I actually started learning how to play strathspeys later, when I got into high school and I started hearing it on the radio on the Thistle and the Shamrock, with Fiona Ritchie. And so that's when I started kind of understanding better what a strathspey was like. But I didn't know where to go and find people. So this is basically the way that I was learning. I was learning out of a book. I was taking private violin lessons. I was taking fiddle violin and orchestra classes in middle school and high school, and so it was that was pretty much the way that I was learning. But I was always listening to the radio, the Thistle and the Shamrock, and I took a um, I took a trip to Williamsburg, and there's the Scotland House, and I picked up one of the best recordings I could have ever gotten. It was a recording by Ron Ganella called Fiddler's Fancy, with a bunch of tunes by J. Scott Skinner and William Marshall. What a great way to be introduced to Scottish music. Ron Ganella himself, I mean, just one of the best players of all time. But so this tune right here, "The Stool of Repentance," just love this tune. It's a fun jig, and so let me play it for you. So there you have it, folks. The first experiences that I ever had with fiddle music was out of this little book that my mom bought in a little music store in Rapperswil, Switzerland, and it's been a wonderful ride ever since. And ever since then, I've identified myself as a musician. That's basically what the way I look at myself as a musician. Also, all sorts of other jobs I've had in my life. I'm a teacher, but really I think of myself as that's what I am. And I hope you enjoyed this. If you ever want to look up the Robin Williamson book, it is a really good book. There's some really neat tunes in it, some really great information with each tune as well. I highly recommend the book. If you're not quite sure what style you want to get into, there's a bunch of different styles in there that you can kind of explore. His explanations are good. And how to play the tunes are in there. If you can, even the recording that he did, if you get the recording, it's not too terrible. But it gives you a good idea what the tunes should sound like. So again, don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel. I really do appreciate you coming in and tuning in. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.